Well, hello there, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls. Normally when I would, in pre-pandemic times, go to the first Wednesdays open mic at community poetry at Recycled Reads, I would come wearing a wig or wearing a hat or, trying to change my costume somehow. And the only thing I could do right now, even though I'm at home and it is the time that the open mic community poetry normally went on, the only thing I could do now is have on black lipstick and a hat, which some cameras can't even see right now. But, and for those that are looking at you wondering why I've got a Steelers shirt on if I'm a Chicagoan, my husband's a Steelers fan and there's a game during community poetry right now, so I thought in honor that I put that on. I wanted to be able to share books with you guys because every time Tom, the world poet, would host one of these things, he'd have a theme, and I never listened to the themes. I never did. So what I would always do is bring a new book, and every month I would have a new poetry collection book, new issues of cc&d magazine or Down to the Dirt magazine, or maybe issue collection books or end of the year collection books. And so I always had something to read from there. So I was going to take some of this time and read some poems from brand new Scars Publications book releases for you. The first one I was going to read from, I've never shared with anyone before. It was released yesterday. It is for cc&d magazine. Titles of books are based on titles of accepted writings within the book, and I believe Reptile Lust is a story that appears in 2 or 3 different issues, and I thought, I've got a kind of cool looking marine iguana sitting here from the Galapagos Islands, and maybe I could share that with you guys. And in fact, I put this post up and somebody's like, I love this lizard on the cover, and I said, when we docked on shore, this thing just like sat there on these chains like it was a statue, like it was just waiting for us to show up. So I had to take the picture, and they were like, oh my god, you could totally see that, because it was the craziest thing when it happened. So I thought, why not have Reptile Lust be the title for one of the acceptances, and there's even little lizards that are appearing in the letters Reptile Lust from a font. Anywho, I thought I'd share with you a couple of poems from this for the first installment, because I would do a number of installments from different books whenever I ran the open mic or attended the open mic with Tom at Austin's Half Price Books for community poetry. So I thought I'd share some poems in the first group reading for you. This first one, hey, and like Tom did, I even have a pair of reading glasses like my husband's. They're not mine, but we'll see how it goes in low light here. But I thought I'd try this out at Christmas time to pull this off. This first poem that I'm going to read from in this book is called Once Again Regain Our Humanity, and it was written on the 9th of December in honor of the 1941 date of the subsequent Nuremberg trials, beginning with the doctors' trials, or physicians' or officers' trials for the people who were involved in Nazi human experimentation and mass murder through euthanasia. Yeah, you hear about these things that went on during World War II, but you had no idea how extensive they were. And this is one of those ways it was. And this is in honor of those trials that were going on in World War II. This is called Once Again Regain Our Humanity. Any history buff with a penchant for Hitler could go into detail about, say, their V-2 rocket assault on Britain, or about how killing Jews with bullets was far too time-consuming, or how German SS soldiers were encouraged to father many children, even if not in wedlock, because Germany needed to produce more blonde-haired, blue-eyed, Aryan babies. World War II buffs could rehash the post-war Nuremberg trials for Germany war crimes too, but on the scale of the Nazis' final solution, indicting officers was never enough. They could all say they were just following orders, but humankind assumed the Hippocratic Oath made doctors swear that they would do no harm to any living beings. But in World War II, Nazi human experimentation thrived from experiments on twins, because when one twin dies, you'd have a duplicate for biological comparison, versus hitting kids with a hammer until they go insane, or freezing people to see how long they'll live. Because, sure, you can hear all about the mass killings and think that things couldn't get any worse, but the thing is, scientifically, medically, they can, from giving mustard gas to electroshock experiments. And the people doing this were doctors vowing an oath to heal. So, do they think they get off scot-free? They knew what they were doing, including forcing the euthanasia on psychiatric hospitals, justifying their actions by inciting eugenics, compassion, reducing suffering, racial hygiene, and get this, saving money. They even posted flyers outlining how much money these unhealthy people cost. Maybe if you hear something enough, given the insane, even the insane becomes justifiable. But when you step back, when you take a good objective look at the system, you probably need to send these doctors through the U.S. military courts, because really, after what everyone discovered really happened that was closed off from the outside world, that even doctors could go against the one solemn oath to heal. A dozen military tribunals doesn't seem like enough to try to make the world right again. How did this happen? One is forced to consider. And what's next? How do we get out of this hole humanity has been thrown into? And before we're shot, left in this ditch to die, what steps can we take to affirm that this is not humanity, but inhuman? So we can shake the insanity that took over the minds of the blindly obedient, and we can once again regain our humanity. Once again regain our humanity. As I said, that one was written on the 9th of December for the beginning of the 1921 at Doctors' Trials for Nuremberg. And because I was looking for events to be able to share in December, in this December issue of cc&d magazine, Reptile Lust, I thought that I would include this poem, which is called Uprising for Revolution. And it was written on the 16th of December, the anniversary of the Boston Tea Party. Boston Tea Party. This is Uprising for Revolution. When sentiments run high, there's revolution in the air. We feel we're at the tipping point. We don't know what else to do. Did I feel that way? Exasperated with politics, hearing the Tea Party represented a more constitutional way of government? Because that's when I made a point to collect my tea leaves for weeks to dump in the Chicago River downtown on April 15th, tax day. Looking back, I may not have chosen to support this party movement, but I did like the idea of protesting when I saw something wrong, leaving my doctor's office post-surgery to do a little protesting of my own. But we may not fully understand the reasons for the Boston Tea Party uprising, propping up British tea companies and heavily taxing colonists in 1773, at a time that they coined the phrase taxation without representation. Back in the day before this country became a collection of nation-states. But a lot of Americans still understand the need for a revolution, for something, anything to change the way things are run in the United States. Not enough instill change through our vote. So we dump tea leaves into the Chicago River, or quit supporting a foreign or current government, which is when we start our trek on those stepping stones to start our own revolution and incite a real uprising. Oh, wow. And that's the interesting thing about some of these things, because you talk about different events that could have gone on in December, because I'm going to jump to the 22nd of December to share an event with you with the poem called Overturn the Futility. Get a load of this. On the 22nd of December, that was the 1849 date that Fyodor Dostoevsky was supposed to be killed for crimes against the Tsar. I had to write something about that on the 22nd for this date, on the 22nd of December. This is called Overturn the Futility. I told him that I really liked reading the writings of Dostoevsky. I know his writing doesn't match my logical, rational views, but he was an author I loved to read. I was drawn to the futility that his protagonists endured, and I couldn't help but connect. He then said that was tough reading, difficult, too complex, but I never thought that. I just liked the message, however fatalistic that it may have been ultimately seemed. And then he said that he thinks that a lot of goth people like his writing, and I can't speak to that. I can only say it speaks to something we all feel and cannot put to words, which is something everyone feels, but we all hold it in and we are told not to think about it because those bad feelings are wrong, and that is that. Stifle it away and bury it within, because that's what we do to make it look like we understand all and we are ahead of everyone else. But reading Dostoevsky allowed yourself to immerse yourself in all of the unthinkable, if only for a brief moment, before you had to shake yourself of all the bad that stayed in hiding, surrounding your soul nonetheless. I recently heard that Dostoevsky was arrested in protests. They planned to shoot him for his crimes. I don't know what his crimes were, other than believing in things that went against the Tsar's beliefs. They planned to shoot him, and on the day he was to be shot, at the last minute, they decided to overturn the ruling and ship him to Siberia for 4 years instead. And, of course, this time was beyond unbearable, living with others like a sardine, unable to move, freezing, thinking of that this was beyond his limits. We talk now about, well, how we have it so tough, how life doesn't seem fair. And now that we claim to be in a rational world, we look for reason in choices made. We feel anger when we think that things don't go our way. And really, when we look at what it could be, when we look at the futility of how life could really be, then even the most goth amongst us need to read how life could actually be. It was crazy hearing these things about Dostoevsky, so I had to share that because that was on the 22nd of September, marking the anniversary of the date that he was supposed to be shot in 1849. That was a poem called Overturn the Futility from the cc&d 2020 December issue that is called Reptile Lust. I should be actually waving to hello readers that are coming in and checking this out, this live Facebook video feed. I hope you're enjoying yourselves. I was going to read maybe two more poems, shorter ones from this book for you, just to be able to close it off, and then I might come in for another reading for this in honor of the community poetry open mic that's not running in pandemic times right now. This is the first one. Is called Zealots Intentions, and it was written on the 10th of December on the anniversary of the 1520 date. Martin Luther King burned his copy of the Papal Bull, Exurbs Domine, at the Wittenberg's Ellen's Gate. This is the date that he actually burned religious documents in front of them. I thought this was cool, so I'm going to share it with you. And this is called Zealots Intentions. If you see great churches burned down, then see its religiously wealthy leaders ask for money to rebuild their church, you may question those religiously wealthy zealots about their intentions and protest them for asking for more. When religions tout that money is the root of all evil, then why then must they ask for more and more money from the poor? But don't you dare point this out in a deeply rooted system, a system that no one seems to question. For if you confront religious misdeeds, they'll write Papal Bull to destroy you. This may be another way the church may try to silence anyone who may protest them. So go ahead. In an act of faith, burn your copy of their bull. It may not change what they said, but it will show the world that you won't let those who you know are wrong silence you. It's wonderful to see when there are protest things against, and you see just tiny little pieces of it in history. And anywho, I'm going to share with you one short poem, and then I'm going to close off this session, because in readings for mini features at this open mic that was called Community Poetry, hosted by Tom Woodruff, you'd have up to upwards of 10 minutes for reading, and then we'd go round robin. So I'll come out back with another reading, but I'll end with this last poem, short little one from the cc&d book, and it is called Rushed. A woman 2 weeks pregnant with twins, chain smokes, aspires to move to a 2-bedroom apartment. After 15 minutes and 4 cigarettes, I rushed to get my new baby. That was actually about getting a cat. That wasn't about getting my actual baby, but that was actually about getting a cat. And I still have Zach, and he's here in the house, and he's just Mr. Adorable. But anywho, that was a select readings from the new December 2020 cc&d Poetry Magazine book that is called Reptile Lust. I hope you enjoyed it. I will come back very, very shortly with another reading from another recently released Scars Publications book. I want to thank each and every one of you. I hope everyone is staying safe. I hope you're staying poetically inclined. And if you are feeling lonely out there, just remember that even when you're all alone, you know that you are loved. And things will get better. And you hang in there, and I will talk to you all very, very soon. Thank you very, very much.